Paul from Alexandria Knife Sharpening. So, one question I get a lot is if you could only buy one CBN wheel, which one would you get first? And I will start by saying this answer has changed over time. So, if you've seen YouTube videos that I did in the past, this answer has changed. And it's because I've added more wheels over time and have multiple wheels now. So I now own the 200 grit, the 400 grit, the 600 grit, and the 1000 grit in CBN. And I used to recommend to people the 1000 grit. That was before I bought the 600 grit and the 400 grit and the 200 grit. So my recommendation now is if you are only going to buy one wheel, you can only afford one wheel, and you know you're going to be using that one wheel for a long time and not adding other wheels into your repertoire of sharpening, then I would say get the 600 grit wheel. And I'm going to show you why. We're going to sharpen this knife with the 600 grit wheel. We'll time it, and I'll show you the results. And then I'm going to show you, then I'm going to take the same knife and sharpen it, resharpen it with the 1000 grit wheel. In fact, what we'll do is we'll dull it, we'll resharpen it with the 1000 grit wheel, and we'll time that and see how long each take. And we'll also see how different the results are. And what will amaze you, I think, because I've done this many times, is the results aren't drastically different. And I'm going to use the best tester to show the difference in the results. Generally speaking, I find it usually is somewhere between 50 and 65 points on a best tester score. But let's do it, let's show it, and then see what happens, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to take this dull knife and do my normal sharpening process. We're going to start with a 600 grit wheel, and then we'll do the same thing with a 1000 grit wheel. So I'm just simply doing my Sharpie trick to match the existing edge angle. Coming down onto my 600 grit CBN wheel, little pull. And that looks pretty good. I think it needs to come up a tiny bit. So I'm going to go about 3 turns on my Tormek and retest. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to take a quick look under my scope. I think we are at the apex, and that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so I'm liking what I see there. I'm liking the angle I've picked, and so what I'm going to do now we'll do just the timed sharpening. There's our clock, there's our timer. This is locked in. All right, there we go. Hit and start. One, two, three. Generally, I find I like to do about 5 strokes and then check. That's 4. That's 5. Now, I'll show you one thing. Some people are probably wondering why I'm starting out here and then going in. And that's because if you see this bolster is angled, and if I just went perfectly straight, it would hit way up here, and I wouldn't get that whole edge. And we have a burr. Now, Santokus are generally very thin, so it is also one of the easier knives that you will grind because they tend to be very thin and also tend to be very, very sharp. That looks real good. I am seeing a little rough edge down here, so I think I want to hit this back half of this knife a little bit more. So I'm going to do a little bit more back here. It's a little low. I'm going to flip over and do the other side. Now I'm just going to do a couple finishing full strokes. 2 on each side, and I'm going to call it quits right there. All right, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to come back here and do some stropping. I'm going to stand to the side, see if you guys can see this. So this is a leather wheel on a high speed, well, it's a variable speed grinder. I'm not running it super fast. Kind of in the middle of speed. I have no way of knowing the exact speed. It doesn't say. And let's do a cut test. And it is push cutting. I'm going to check a couple other areas for push cut. Yeah, beautiful. You can see it's just crazy, crazy, crazy sharp. And that's 600 CBN. All right. So let's go over, do a best test, see where the number is, and then we'll do the same thing with 1,000. Okay, so I'm over now at the best tester. When I stopped the stopwatch, we were at 3 minutes and 42 seconds to sharpen this knife on the 600 grit CBN wheel. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick a little area and just mark it so that when we do our 1,000 test, I'm going to try and test as close to the same spot as the test we do this time. All right, so best tester's on, we're recording, and I'm going to try and get this monofilament line lined up as closely as I possibly can with that blue mark. All right, so we are right there, and I'm going to do my push cut test now. $170, guys. That's a great number, and that is on a 600 grit CBN wheel. Now let me show you the best tester chart. So 170 puts us in utility razor blade range, which, trust me, any one of your customers is going to be thrilled with how sharp that knife is. So that is a great score. So now let's take this same knife. I'm going to dull it and redo the whole process over again on the 1,000 grit wheel, and we'll see the difference in the time and the score and how long it takes. All right, so let me grab a sharpening stone from one of my cases down here. I do have a case with some flat stones. There we go. This will work just perfectly. And we are going to purposely dull this edge. All right, so that should do it. Go to our tester. Now what I've been doing for even more accuracy, I have been taking these forceps, which I know weigh about, I think, 85 grams. I just hang them. And this way, the tension is the same on each test that I do. I've heard before, I think they recommended you could hang 100-gram weight from it if you wanted it to be absolutely perfect. I don't have 100-gram weight, but those forceps are very, very close. So, all right, so let's reset that. Now let's see how dull this is. Hopefully it should be pretty dull now. I'm going to test that same location. All right, so we got a 170, 645. So our dulling process with our 400 grit stone there did its job. That is a dull knife. All right, so now let's go back and we will do the same process with 1,000 stone. Okay, so I put my 1,000 grit stone on here, remove the 600 grit. I am going to take my knife. It's still in the jig. Everything's still set the same. We did dull it on that 400 grit stone. And let's see how long the sharpening process takes on the 1,000 grit stone and what the numbers come in at. Okay, I'm going to check for a burr now. That was 5 passes. And I do not feel a burr yet. So I'm going to go back and do some more here. I'm going to do another 5. Now I have a burr. Full length. Yep, good burr. Oh, I picked up a magnet somewhere from the shop. All right, other side. That's 10. It feels good and sharp. So I'm going to go and do some stropping just like before on the strop over there. Where are we? 2 minutes and 25 seconds. All right, let's see cut test. Yeah, that's good. It's push cutting. So it's already back. And it looks good, looks nice, looks really good. Alright, let's stop this. Where are we? Time wise, 3:57. So pretty close to, we just hit 4 minutes. Pretty close to the same amount of time, but this might have, this was a lot, even with me dulling it, I don't know that this was quite as rough as this was when I first started it on the 600 grit wheel. But I'm going to stop the clock here at 4:20 and go back over to the best tester. And let's see the score there. But the main difference there that I can tell you guys is the quickness with which you're going to be able to remove material. So you're going to be able to get material off much faster on the 600 grit wheel than you are the 1000 grit wheel. All right, so there we are. So we were at the 180s with the best tester at 600 grit. Let's see where we are with 1000. And I will do my best to try and hit as close to that same mark as possible. I can still see it here. I'm going to do my best to line that monofilament up with that. And that looks generally the same area. All right, so let's start our push test. $146. So you guys see that? 146. So we went from 180 range down to the 140. So we knocked about 40 points off. And I think I told you for most of my testing before in the past, generally anywhere in that 50 to 65 point range is about normal between the 600 grit CBN wheel and the 1000 grit CBN wheel on the results in the sharpness that you're going to get from it. So that's why if you're going to do one stone, I do like the 600 because it's going to save you time and make it, when you have a really bad dull knife, easier for you to get through that, get the material off, but still give you an incredibly sharp edge. And if you decide to go with the 1000, well, that's not a problem either. When you need more speed, then my recommendation would be buy a 200 grit wheel and do, as I've showed before, the 200,000 grit combo. Works great. Whether you have one machine, two machines, doesn't matter. Super easy to change out and do it that way. But if you're only going to buy one wheel and stick with that one wheel for as long as possible and not add another wheel, then my recommendation would be get the 600 grit. And as you can see, the results in your level of sharpness are going to be really close to each other. If we're talking 40, 50 points on the best tester, that is, it's significant, but in the realm of things, it's really not. We're all still talking, razor sharp level of sharpening. All right, guys, I hope you appreciate that, get a little something out of that, and I will be signing off for today. Have a great one.